Salutations, everybody.
What's up?
This is the Perspectives Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Littyyy Bro Flacko. To my side is Holden Stephan Roy. Holden, say hi.
Hi, Holden.
That's right. That's the usuals. That's how we get down. um, this is the Perspective Podcast. We're here with our guest, legendary indie MC, EO Dub alumni, MC Challenge winner, MC Challenge of Champions winner, um, Lupe Fiasco's favorite rapper, um, causer of all sorts of havoc in the indie hip hop scene last year, Osyris Antham.
Facts.
Yo, it was a good job. What's popping? What's popping?
What's going on, man?
I'm chilling.
So we'll get
Thank
straight
you for
to it.
having me.
No, thank you. Thank you for making time for us.
Yeah, of
Let's
course.
get straight into it, right?
I'm not gonna lie. It's hard to say no to Danny. You know what I mean?
It's hard to say no to Danny, man. You can't say no to Danny.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna be an asshole if you say no to Danny.
Fact. Fact.
People gonna be like, you said no to Danny? The fuck wrong with you?
Right.
So we've been on this journey for like about a year now, Osiris, right? I'm gonna give you
Okay.
our
Bet.
every episode. I give everybody the origin story. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Awesome.
that you're aware. So what happened was last year, me and a fellow Challenge of Champions winner of yours, Jess James Figueroa, right? We were doing the Littyyy Bros Volume One album, and
Copy.
we decided to use an engineer from Montreal to mix down the album, and that's the homie Merker Miyagi. And
Okay.
he might as well be a New Yorker, you know what I mean? Even though he in Montreal, because he's like one of them type of dudes that like, he like works with a lot of people through engineering, right? And then he doesn't promote any of them because if you promote one of them, that means you got to promote all of them, and
That's
he
real.
doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do
That's
that.
real.
So he doesn't promote anything that he really works on, but he ended up promoting our project, and that caught Holden's attention as a friend of his because that made Holden be like, "Well, hold on a minute, you don't ever promote nobody
Holding from
that you
Montreal as
work
well.
with."
Yeah, I'm from Montreal.
Yeah, Holden is from Montreal as well,
All right.
and so he saw that he promoted us. He checked out our stuff, and Holden for a while there was doing a lot of album reviews, and so he did an album review on his own of the album, and it was fucking fantastic album review. And I was just like, "Yo, we should do an interview." And he was like, "It's funny you say that. That was the next thing I was going to talk to you about." So
Yeah.
we sat down, we did an interview, and Osiris, bro, let me tell you something. I felt like I fucking went to therapy after that shit. I was like,
That's
why have
beautiful.
I been in this fucking game this long and I've never talked about my life growing up,
Mm.
right? Like, it's always these fucking generic, annoying ass fucking hip hop questions, especially in the indie scene. They're super unoriginal. You know what I mean? It's super like, so when did you fall in love with hip hop? Like, which is just like, oh my God, shoot me if I have to answer that question again. Stop watching Brown Sugar. But anyway, so me and Holden did the interview, and it felt like therapy. And I immediately did the typical New Yorker thing, and I was just like, "This was great. Now I got to put on all my friends." And so I was just like, "Yo, we should do a series together." And I'll bring some homies to the table, and here we are. You know what I mean? This
Lit. I
time it
love
was
that.
Danny who brought the homie to the table, right? But we're all family of family here, especially in the New York City indie scene. You know what I mean? The
Hmm.
EO Dub family is absolutely a family, whether or not we're from the same fucking class or not, doesn't matter. We all just came from the same school, right?
Right.
But regardless, the point is, here we are. And so,
Listen, man. I love a good origin story. I love listening to the
right?
origin stories, right? Because we all
I
love
love
telling
telling
them.
the origins. I love telling the
Right.
origin story because
Hell yeah.
it was a genuine thing. You know what I mean? Like, it goes to show you how, like, sometimes you don't want to force. You know what I mean? I had through battle rap. I had a lot of uh, white Canadian fans. right?
Oh,
And
word.
right, white
Shout out to
Canadians tend to
Drake.
love. They
Is that
love
is that
battle
Drake's
rap.
fault?
No,
No,
they just love
I
battle rap. I think that they just like they for as friendly of a people as Canadians are. I think that they
Yeah,
like the idea of berating people to their face on a regular basis. So
right.
they
Because they're
take
not
to
doing it.
they yeah, because they're not doing so they take to battle rap like fish take to water. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So so
We
right
love the drama that we're not a part of, right?
exactly exactly. So origin story out the way. Holden has a great set of questions that he brings to every interview, but I like to
Okay,
cut him off and make everybody start with a more traditional set of questions, even though it's not
okay,
when did you fall in love with hip hop, which is can you introduce yourself to the people, give them your
yeah,
aliases, and then tell
okay,
them where you're from, and then tell them where your parents are from.
mm,
okay, wavy. Yeah, my name is Osiris Antham. You can also know me as Nasir, Nasiyer, which is my birth name. My students call me Mr. Nas. And I'm from Brooklyn. My parents, well, I was raised with my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather. So my mother, if you want to be technical, she was technically born. She was born in England, but I wouldn't say that she's English. She's not British. But my family is Bayesian on my grandmother's side and Jamaican on my grandfather's
Okay.
side. So
Hey,
those are the flags I wave whenever we
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the culture I'm from.
dope.
Shouts to your family.
Yeah, good looking.
I've been on a personal tirade lately. I'm constantly in Facebook jail, and
Okay. Oh, word.
I just finished getting out of Facebook jail recently. And one of my immediate topics that I was talking about was like the lack of knowledge that Black Americans in the country tend to have about the Caribbean overall,
Mm,
Mm,
and how all of the islands in the Caribbean, we are kind of like our own family. It's like I shared a picture of women dressed in indigenous native garb
hmm.
dresses, right?
Okay.
And every island in the Caribbean has a different form of the like white dress with different colors added to it
Mm.
thing. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
it
yeah,
it
yeah.
just goes to show it's one of the many like things that all the islands in the Caribbean have in common. I also always mention like make mention of like how like in Jamaica it's a beef patty, in Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Cuba it's an empanada. But at the end
Empanada.
of the day, it's
Yeah.
still the same fucking thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Fact.
It's some like pastry with some like meat in the middle. You
With
know what I
some meat in
mean?
the
Like
middle. Yeah.
you know, we all family in the Caribbean and shit. So that's dope. That's
Yeah, that's a
shouts to
fact.
your family.
I mean, one thing that I always like to talk about is Haiti's influence on American history. The Louisiana Purchase is something we always learn in school, and that only happened because Haiti won the Haitian Revolution against France. That's something that
Yeah.
when we talk about, just our connection to just culture in the Americas all together, like how we all
Mm-hmm.
have a part of that tapestry together. It's important to know that whole picture because
Absolutely.
we get into divides all the time. You know what I mean? Where it's the Yankees versus the coconut sometimes, so to speak. But it's really
Exactly.
all one. You
And it's
feel me?
all one. Yeah, that's the thing that like gets me riled up is where I'm just
Yeah.
I you know what it is that I had been watching a lot of there's this YouTube channel called Prim's Hood Cinema, and
Okay.
homie just like does like live reviews of like classic hood movies that we've all watched
Okay.
and shit. And
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I heard him like talking shit about Jamaicans, and I'm just like, my God, but I could hear the like southern in his like drawl, and like I know
Yeah.
that like outside of like Florida, New York City, Florida, it's kind of one of those things where like there is Caribbean all over the whole country, but
Hmm.
people don't seem to get very educated on it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
how much
And that's on
how
purpose.
tied to how tied together,
yo, that
yeah, we
is
all
like
are through.
wildly different than Montreal. I mean, like it is like everyone knows everybody. Like I've heard of every island, and everybody's proud of where they're from in Montreal, and everybody feels real connected to the islands. So that's like, if like listening to
Yeah.
this, it's like, wow. I don't know if the rest of Canada is like that, but Montreal be like really connected to the islands.
I mean,
Yeah,
Montreal is not far from New York, so they have they have a huge Canada. Period has a huge Caribbean population.
Yeah.
Holden, by the way,
yeah.
your mic was
Oh.
doing that little thingy thing. You might want to fix that while we wrap up the conversation about the Caribbean and whatnot. I mean, but yeah, Canada has a huge right because Canada. A lot of us went up to Canada
Hmm.
in when America felt like it was. I mean, it's not like it stopped feeling like it's trying to kill us, right?
Yeah.
But uh, when it felt even more prevalently, damning back in the days. You know what I mean? Like we migrated up to Canada a lot.
Yeah, it was a
A
lot
lot of
happening
it.
in the 60s, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s too, because
Mm-hmm.
what you had, post World War II, you had what you called the Windrush generation, where a lot of Caribbean people were going to England because they were getting their citizenship, but then a lot of Caribbean people were coming to New York, and then also to Montreal and Toronto and whatnot during that time period. I'm not sure what was triggering it, but there was a lot of that action and energy. Even when you talk about like Dutters from Jamaica and Shower Posse and all them cats, they was coming from Jamaica and going up to Toronto and all them places. So like it was a lot of that was very recent too in the last 40, 50, 60 years. Like when my
Yeah,
grandparents came here, it was in the 60s.
a lot of great migrations happened in the last 50 to 100 years from the Caribbean into the Americas.
Yeah,
But we'll
yeah.
we'll we'll get more into that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll let Holden.
Nah,
I'll
this
let
is super
Holden get to
interesting
his.
stills though. Like that's how the show works. You don't know that yet, but when
Yeah, no,
tangents
that's
happen, they
exactly it.
just happen. It just goes. But
I
we
love it.
we do have a more standard opening question that I just ask everybody. It's a little bit of a story, and then when it lands, you can just kind of run with it. And it starts off
Okay.
with my girlfriend, and she's washing the dishes one time, and she got her phone out, and she's playing the Black Eyed Peas song, the I got a
I
feeling,
got a feeling.
ooh, and she's vibing, she
Hmm.
dancing, she doing her things, and I look at her, and I have this thought, and I go, when the fuck did this song become chores music? Right? Because like if you think about this song in particular and you run it back like a decade, this song is like the biggest moment song, like the highlight of the night, or it's a party, or it's whatever, and it's just celebrations and good times and positive energies. You run it forward a decade, and it's I'm washing dishes, I'm at the gym, I'm in some place where it's maybe a little bit boring, and I want to run it back to when I was having those celebration times, and it was like this big epiphany about
Hmm.
music, right? Because like the song doesn't change at all. It's the same song, but we evolve so much as people over time that like the context the music plays on our lives completely changes. And then I thought about how music and musicians are all on journeys. Like you have all these little 20-year-olds and they be out there doing their thing and they're not even like aware yet that in the future this is what their chores music sounds like. You know what happened when I heard Pop Smoke? I wash dishes to Pop Smoke now. And then it's like the cycle of music and age is just kind of like that. And it made me realize, like
Yeah.
Flacco touched on a little bit before with the interviews and stuff, everybody kind of starts at the same place. This adolescent era, the era where you form your identity. You start writing at this point. Your first favorite rapper is this. And it's like, I was thinking about it and I'm like, that's not really when anybody's musical journey starts. Like, there's a good chance in the hospital when you was born. There's a song playing in the room and little sound waves is being absorbed into you. And I started thinking about when I'm young. I can remember being 5 in Montreal. My dad's got all these gray boxes in the apartment, the preamp and the amp and the radio and the tape deck and all this stuff was with the wires going everywhere, the homemade surround sound experience. He'd be playing his Led
Hmm.
Zeppelin tapes and things in the day, but at night it was like the
Mm.
EDM straight from the clubs of Montreal playing live on the radio. My mom's flipped it up with her discos and musicals and love songs and all that other stuff. And you can mix in like the pop of the era, etc. And all of this created like this soundscape to the existence of my life before I had any control over what I was ever listening to. Now, keep in mind when I ask you this that most of us do not come from Brooklyn and most of us do not know what you mean when you go, nah, I mean. So, with that, can you bring us back to being the youngest Osiris Anthem you can remember being and tell us a little bit what it sounded like to be you before you had control over the sounds in your life?
Here comes the hot stepper, murderer.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit! That's a great song.
That's the earliest memory of a song that I had. I remember being in my stepfather, who's passed away now, in the back of his car, and I don't know, I might have been like 4, and I remember we were going down a bridge. And you know how your memories, like they say, like you might misremember how stuff actually happened when it's a memory from far. So maybe I wasn't on the bridge, but that's how my memory remembers it. But I remember being in the back of the car and hearing that song on the radio while we were driving down the bridge. Might have been the Brooklyn Bridge, might have been the Manhattan Bridge. I'm not sure, but yeah, Any Kamosi, Here Comes the Hot Stepper. One of my OGs, he tells me that when I was a kid, I used to always sing. What's that Foxy Brown song? Not Foxy Brown, the rapper. Foxy Brown, the Jamaican singer. Uh, sorry.
Ooh,
It's all
all
I
you
can
can
say.
say.
So I don't
Here
remember it,
goes
but my
down
OG told me
the
I always
lead.
used to sing that song when I was in his
Like
whip.
sorry, my fault.
So
Nah, keep
nah, go
running.
ahead, let's get it. That's a vibe. That song
That's
is a
just
vibe.
joint. I was literally just listening to that song. I was
Ooh.
literally just going, and it's crazy that you say Hot Stepper because it was literally that song. That song. It was Mad Cobra with
Mm. With
Flex
Biggie.
or Time to
Oh
Have
yeah. Oh,
Sex.
flex, flex,
Uh,
flex.
and it was just a bunch of '90s dance hall jams that was just.
Mm.
I'm gonna date myself, but that was my, junior high school fucking school dance, grinding up on a girl for the first time in my life and shit,
Word,
era
Mad
and
Cobra.
whatnot. So what? So like I have
Damn.
super fond memories of all, and New York City was lit back then. You know what I mean?
Hell
Like
yeah, hell yeah.
with
I don't remember, but I believe you.
it was indeed lit, sir.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
that's a big one too, Danny. Yeah, I'm in love with a man
Man,
nearly
nearly
twice my
twice
age.
my age.
Know what it is. I can't
Mm-hmm.
stop you for my youthful days. As I go my way, I don't care what the people say. I'm in love with a man nearly
Nearly
twice my
twice my
age.
age.
All right, well, jumping,
Oh,
jumping.
no.
Yeah, classic, classic.
so,
I appreciate that
so
question,
your dad,
Holden. Thank you.
so your dad was the one playing Aini Kamosi.
yeah.
Yeah, my stepfather at the time, yeah,
So like,
on the radio.
was music like a big part of life back then?
Yeah, definitely. When I was a kid, my mother used to play like music in the basement all of the time, like have like little dance parties. Um, I was even watching a little video of my of one of my family friends' wedding when I was like maybe 5, which I don't remember, but they had me on camera just dancing. Like I've always loved music. Since I was a kid, music has always been a huge part of my life. And then even when I turned 12, I had my first. So in school, we were playing recorders. In all
Yeah.
respect to the recorder, but I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not gonna count that. But when I was 12, I joined a steel pan band, steel drums,
Okay.
and so like pretty much ever since, music has always been like the thing.
So outside of
Let's
music,
not, let's not, let me tell you something. Let's not downplay the recorder. There were some of us
Yeah,
that couldn't play the recorder. So
oh,
it wasn't as
I don't
easy as
remember a
everybody made
damn
it
thing I
seem.
played on that.
I can remember we got taught the Titanic song for some reason, and I can vividly remember
Oh
the
yeah.
notes of how to play the Titanic song on the recorder. Yeah, just like that. I can vividly remember that, but yeah, everyone kind of got that one. But like before, and I do want to go into the steel band stuff because that's super fascinating. But like when you were young,
Yeah.
outside of music, did you have any like passions that you were up to? Like, did you draw? Were you getting up to sports?
When well, how young would you say?
It's like a young one, before under 12.
around that
Under
Aini
12?
Kamosi age,
Yeah.
around
Nah,
those
I was just
memories.
Nah, I was just a mindless kid just running around doing whatever. My passion was maybe like Power Rangers.
I was gonna
Um,
say, so then like Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a thing for you then?
yeah. Yeah, I had a friend who was my best friend like when I was that young, and Power Rangers was our thing. That was
Understand.
like our
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, Power Rangers, hell yeah.
It's a big time,
yeah.
man.
Power Rangers for your generation, Voltron for my generation.
Yo, I
Yeah, I
watched.
remember the
Always.
day. I literally remember the day in school where somebody told me about Power Rangers. It was like second grade, and I went home and I remember the first episode I watched. That show was just like everything.
Yeah, I remember
Crazy.
that. I'm in that age group. I don't remember what grade it was, but I remember that moment and that whole first season, and then the Green Ranger and all of that good stuff.
Ooh, classic,
Then the
super
movie
classic. That's
came.
better television than anything they got out now.
Yeah. That's dope. So you get into steel band, and you kind of a little bit of a little run around singing just out of the hobbiness of it. And what's the steel band experience like? Does it go all out with the competitions, or is it more just like you learn how to play it?
Nah, we weren't being competitive. The band that I was a part of already had a rep and a name. It was a band from Guyana called the
Okay.
Chronicle Atlantic Steel and Brass Orchestra, and they had moved from Guyana to New York. And my pastor at the time, at the church that I went to, he had brought that band to our church from where they were, and it was part of just like the activities that they had for us in the church for the kids.
Mm.
And I was actually, funny enough, I was reluctant to do it, but my mother forced me to do it, and then I ended up loving it. We didn't compete, but we performed at different churches, we performed at different events around New York. So it was either playing, the Christian music at church events, or it was playing the Caribbean tunes at parties. And so that was a lot of fun. I played the tenor pan, I was front line. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty fire, and I find it fascinating how you brought up church in the middle of this, because over and over again, there's like this church circuit that comes up, and anybody that went into the church circuit has a similar kind of circuit. I performed in front of audiences. The church linked us up to these things. I
Yeah.
was getting like 10,000 hours performing in front of
Hmm.
crowds before I was even 16, and it's some wild shit to
Right.
hear about. And you were doing it with steel pan, which is a
Yeah.
very fun and energetic instrument.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you a connection to the music. It's like percussion, but it's melodic percussion, which is, so it's like you're getting the best of what the drums give you in a way, but then you're also getting the best of like what the vocals give you. And so you get to really party while you're playing it, especially being on the tenor pan where you're playing whatever the lead melody is. So you're partying while you're playing. It's a lot of fun.
That's dope.